I'm your guide, Zach, and today we're talking about how to start making your dream a reality today. And we're going to discuss what, how, when, where, and why, and touch a little bit on the who if it's something outside of yourself at this point. So, first and foremost, I don't have all the answers. I'm learning just like you. However, if you stick around, I hope to give you some tactics and beliefs I've learned and found that might serve you in your journey towards realizing your dreams, whatever those may be. I hope that together we can support one another as we make our dreams a reality so we can better the world today. So let's dive into the what's. And so the way I kind of think about this is do's and don'ts, an easy way to go forward. So last time we talked about one of the tactics of figuring out your why and kind of the what your dream is and what you want to do. And I talked about this concept of being the verb. And so if you want to be a writer, what does that look like? It actually looks like sitting down and writing. If you want to be a entrepreneur, it actually looks like going out and starting that business. It doesn't have to be on the scale or at the scope that you want. It might not be everything that you've envisioned, but it's actually until you've taken that action, you actually haven't even started the journey yet. Like all this friction and all these challenges, you've built up all these obstacles in your mind that you don't even know if you actually have to face those things. So the place and the what that I always think of, like, what do you actually need to do? Kind of like we talked about last time, is like being the verb. So kind of reverse engineering this dream and this vision you have in mind. All right, if I want to be a New York Times best-selling debut author, what do I have to do? And I know for me, what I have to do is I have to show up and I have to write every single day. I have to find some kick-ass critique partners, which I have. I probably have to get some awesome beta readers and put together some really solid like questionnaires for those beta readers. I probably have to get some secondary readers. I probably have to really hone and develop my own writing skills. That's why I'm doing a dual degree master's program in creative writing and writing popular fiction. I probably need to be reading a ton of fantasy novels, especially YA to New Age, which is what I'm doing. So you can kind of see, I could keep going on, but you can kind of see the depth and the thought of which I put into what is it actually going to take to become a debut New York Times bestselling author. And once you know what your dream is, and who knows if that's what you want to actually do. And by the time you get to that point, you may want to do something completely different, but you have to have a direction for which you can reverse engineer what you need to be doing in this moment, what you need to start. And so, kind of once you have an idea and a list of these things that you need to be doing, and that's why we talk about this, be the verb. So, whatever it is you want to be, just turn that into a verb. Just look at the job description, just Google it. Find other people that are already doing them, asking them, how did you start? What did you have to do? Like, what is it actually like? Take a moment and be like, what does it look like on a day-to-day basis to actually have my dream? If I was living my dream, what would it look like on a day-to-day basis? And then start doing those things. And so the second big concept that I have for this what under do's is first things first. This is a principle I've lived by for over a decade, and it's helped me in every single endeavor and pursuit that I've gone after, from swimming to being a CrossFit athlete and instructor to, working towards being a New York Times best-selling debut author in fantasy, towards everything. It's actually whenever you prioritize your dream first, you're giving the best of yourself first to your dream instead of giving the best of yourself to everything that happens in the day. And whether that's, going to your 9 to 5, if you're a parent, obviously you're showing up and giving your best to your kids. But to actually advance and push your dream forward, you have to give some of yourself first and foremost to that dream. It's kind of like if you're not putting in the effort first in the morning, then you're actually opening up to all the challenges throughout the day. You're actually on reaction mode. You're playing defense throughout the entire day, hoping that by the end of the day, you have enough willpower, determination, and energy left to give to your dream. Well, if you already had all that stuff, you'd already be accomplishing your dream, right? You'd already be going after it. If your why was strong enough by the end of the day, maybe you could keep going. But here's the thing. If you want to play on offense and if you want to chip away and work towards your dream, then just prioritize it first. And I'm not saying not the rest of that stuff isn't important. Like obviously, like I'm very much a family first kind of person. I prioritized for a long time showing up to my day job first and foremost, showing up to my school studies first and foremost, showing up to my commitments that I had made, being integral to my word. But first and foremost, I showed up for my dreams. And why? And this isn't a selfish act. It's actually a selfless act because I believe whenever you show up for your dream first and foremost in the day, you're actually pouring into that cup. So it's that old adage of, glass half full, glass half empty. Well, what if you actually just filled the fucking glass? What if when you started the day, you did the thing that you loved the most in the world that really pushed you and really fulfilled you and really brought you joy and happiness first in the day? How much more would you show up for your kids? Whenever they had a terrible day at school and they're just fuming and relenting, or everything's going wrong at the office, we've all had those days. You haven't even made it through the doors yet, and you already know your emails have been buzzing off. You're getting messages from coworkers. You're like, man, today is gonna be some firefighting. But what if you showed up first in the day for yourself and you were like, no, I'm ready. Like, I'm ready to kick ass. I showed up, I already did my workout for today. Maybe I did some journaling, maybe I ate healthy. Maybe for me or for you, it's, I worked on that business. I sent out that sales pitch to someone, I reached out to someone in the industry to get some help on this. I reached out and tried to do a partnership deal. I invited someone onto this podcast I wanted to start. I actually recorded the YouTube video. And so you're walking into the day, instead of on defense, you're on offense. You're filled up, you're energized. Because at the end of the day, it's all an energy game, and this is something I really believe in, is that at the start of the day, you're like a full battery, like you're a full tank of gas. And throughout the day, you're slowly depleting as the miles wear down, the tires are wearing out, that AC is kind of rattling and jangling. You're like, I don't know, it's Texas summer heat. Are we going to make it throughout this day, or is this thing going to blow out? I'm going to be sweating in my, long sleeve button up and slacks because, God, you remember those days? We had to wear those to the office. No, that was one of the big reasons I've launched out into creative writing and doing my own writing, and launching this YouTube and podcast and helping people out, is getting away and having that independence of work attire choice. If I'm seriously being honest. Anyways, so yeah, think about first things first and prioritizing your dream first. It's kind of like the same concept of paying yourself first. I don't know if y'all have heard of this. So I read this great book called The Richest Man in Babylon. I highly recommend it to anyone who feels a little intimidated by, finance or money. It's a short book. It's probably 60 pages, maybe, and the font on mine was pretty large, unintended. And, it's a really beautiful old story nestled in with The Richest Man in Babylon. And they give you all these different advice, like money advice and, finance advice, but it's couched in these beautiful stories set in antiquity in Babylon. If y'all know where that's from, it's out in the East, like ancient civilization known across the world at its time and still today for being one of the richest and most complex societies in the world. But the thing that I learned and took away from that book was pay yourself first. And what that means is before you actually take your money and put it on paying your bills, paying your expenses, paying the car insurance, buying groceries, even paying taxes, although most of that is taken out before we even get our check, right? What if you took 5%, 10%, and you invested that, or you had that automatically drawn out of your check and it went into a savings account? And then every time you get paid, you're building this emergency fund. Most people in America don't even have $1,000 for a basic emergency fund. and 4 out of 5 people in America are actually in debt. But what if you actually paid yourself first? So instead of every check you get, you spend on, expenses, bills, like we all have those, right? We can all cut those down as much as we want. We can all tightly budget as much as we want. But the idea is, instead of playing defense and watching all this money slip away and disappear, before any of that happened, what if 10% of that, 5% of that, 5%, y'all, $100 a month, everyone can find and make $100 a month? And if you're like, Zach, I can't find $100 a month, I'm telling you, Netflix subscriptions, going out to eat fast food all the time, those are luxury choices. Those are not life necessities. On Maslow's hierarchy of needs, under basic survival, you don't see Netflix subscriptions. So kind of the same concept of first things first is, what if you actually advance your dream first in the day? And if you're a night owl, I love that. If you're a night owl, I totally don't understand what that's about. I love that for you. It's not for me. I'm a kind of watch the sun come up morning person and be asleep, about the time it's going down, getting dark. But the idea is, first things first, is you're taking the best of your energy and when you're at your max and putting that towards your dream. So think about that. So some of my don'ts for starting is, don't compare yourself. Don't judge your beginner self versus the curated social media life, or the curated versions, or the professional versions. Like, it's kind of like you're giving a football to someone who's never played football in their life, and you're like, well, I want you to walk out on that NFL field and play with the NFL stars. Now they're going to get murdered, unless there's some miracle. We're not talking some Rudy story, or that Philadelphia Eagles story. But the idea is, don't compare yourself to the professional who's been doing this for decades. Like, embrace being the beginner. It's kind of like this YouTube channel. Embrace being sucky now and being a beginner now, because you don't have all the expectations. You don't have all the people, the millions of followers, people throughout the industry looking towards you and being critical of everything that you do. Like, now is the time to explore and experiment and try things. Not that you shouldn't be doing those later in your professional career as well, but you can actually test things out and see what it's all about. And, the biggest obstacle between us and our dreams is actually, one of the biggest, I should say, is our ego. So, I believe it was Anthony Truck said, ego is everyone's greatest obstacle. And I love that. Absolutely. Because I think we build up in our mind that, for some reason, if we started anything that we've never done before, we have to be perfect at it. And it's like, obviously that's not true. No one does that. But in our minds, there's some reciprocal society effect of like, well, we're going to be shamed. We're going to be ostracized from society. Like, people are not going to connect with us. Our friends and families are going to leave us. Like, we go into this like deep, dark place of basically like, we're going to die from doing something, being terrible at it, even though we've never done it before. So just don't compare and judge yourself. Embrace being a beginner. Embrace that fun and that joy, because whenever you start anything, it should be fun. It should be joyous. You should be enjoying aspects of it. Like, yes, there are difficulties. Even as a beginner, you're trying to figure out 1,000 different things, but really just pick one thing, figure that out. Pick one other thing, figure that out. So think about worrying less about the results or output, and worry more about consistency, showing up with consistency. So for me, I'd rather show up every single day writing for 3 hours every day than show up and write 8 hours one day, skip a couple days, write a huge another section. Or if you're someone who's just starting out, when I first started out writing, I'd rather show up and write 5 minutes every single day of the week. So that's 35 minutes total, than just write 35 minutes one day and then go all these days without the consistency. Because what you're doing is you're building a habit within your mind. And then once you start building a habit, then you can start stacking habits in there. You can start tweaking the system and process, and you can start building in more efficiency as you figure things out. And so one of my other big things is like, please don't say you'll start when you finish reading all these books or listening to all these people talk, about how they started in their field. This is something I used to do and be horrible at, and I still am. Even before I launched this YouTube and podcast, I was like, all right, I'm going to do this once I study everything there is and never has ever been written and will be written by the time I finish studying all that other stuff. Once I've done all that, then I'll start my own podcast and YouTube. When really the best way to start anything is actually just by starting. Like, if you want to talk about the biggest return on learning, like, it's by going out there and making mistakes. It's by flying with no idea what direction you're going, but realizing that you have to fly and figuring it out as you go. And so when I first decided to start writing fantasy, epic fantasy specifically, it was back in 2014, 2015. So I was in the Peace Corps. I decided that I was like, yeah, I really want to, like, humans actually write books. I am a human, so I can figure this out and do this, like, no problem, right? And so did I start writing a novel? No. I ended up writing 150,000 words of world building, which, for those of you who don't know what world building is, don't worry, I didn't either when I started, but it's basically all the make believe elements within a fantasy world, right? It's figuring out what the societies look like, what kind of species and races, if this isn't just a human Earth's kind of setting, how many moons are there, what do they speak, what's the cultures like, what's the food like, what time period are we in, is there magic or no magic, what are the hierarchical class within there, like, what's the monetary system like, do they worship gods, or gods part of the actual, are they involved in the world? So you can see, like, there's a million different questions that you can spend all this time figuring out and answering. And basically what I did for like 2 years is I was like having fun, it was like just figuring out things and writing fun stuff down. I didn't have any like self-judgments. I didn't feel bad for not showing up and writing. I felt like I was really accomplishing all this essential and pivotal stuff. And I was like, once I have a little bit more, like, once I hit this point, I'll know when I'm ready to start writing. And then I realized at some point, 2 years in, and I actually hadn't even written a single word of a novel. But I had all this great world building stuff. And so, not in a single word of an actual story, yet it felt like I was progressing and it felt like I was moving the needle. When in actuality, I wasn't moving the needle at all. I was actually just setting myself further and further and further back. Now, caveat, I've learned how to incorporate a lot of that world building, because I sure as heck didn't waste 150,000 words in 2 years of world building, not to use that in my stories and my novels. And so, the idea is just start. Just start right now. You're never going to feel ready. You're going to feel like an imposter. You're going to feel like a beginner. And guess what? That's part of the process. And that means you're actually doing the work. So let's talk about how. And I'm going to dive into specifically with writing here. So let's talk about, how do you start writing? Like, how do you start anything? And really, you can begin anywhere, with a YouTube. How do you start? You start making YouTube videos. You start figuring things out, just like I am. Like, this is my second YouTube video that I've created. I'm figuring out, currently I know that, well, it doesn't say how much time on there, which is silly for Zoom, how much time we're at, but I basically have figured out that a full page of notes, like bullet pointed, for me is about 10 to 15 minutes of speaking, if I don't go on like crazy tangents, which, I'm working at getting better at. I know that I need to have a fan and the AC going while I record these, because I'm either super nervous, y'all, or I'm super pumped, because I get super heated about these things. My body temperature starts rising. I need to have some water on the side and ready. I prefer having the standing desk, so that way I can move around. I can be a little more dynamic in my videos. So the idea is, you can start anywhere. With writing specifically, I personally started writing my novel with chapter 39. And it came to me in a dream too, which is a whole separate thing. We'll dive into some other time. But Yeah, you can start anywhere with writing, with YouTubing, with anything. Like obviously with YouTubing, you just start creating videos. With writing, you can start writing, whether it be short stories, whether it be, starting with a novel. I recommend starting something with a little bit shorter personally, because I started with a novel, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but having never written anything really creative outside of a classroom setting, which, I think honors English was the last time I wrote a creative piece of work. And that was a 10-page essay. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to write an epic fantasy novel. How hard could that be, y'all? 110,000 words later, and it wasn't even a book. Who knew? So you can literally start anywhere, but you just have to start. So that's kind of the how. So even let's use another example, working out. You could start first thing in the morning, you can start in the evening, you can start on your lunch break. You can go on walks right after your lunch. You can sign up for a HIIT class if you're a person who likes socializing with other people, if you like being held accountable by other people. If you don't like being solitary, like classes are great settings. Zumba classes, love those, love dancing. Cycling classes are amazing. I love the energy, love the vibes. You go to the same place, you're indoors, so you don't have to worry about the weather, but you get around all these other people who are all super hyped, or most of them are super hyped. So no matter what state your energy level is, that rises up too, and you start feeling good about yourself. So there's no perfect place to start, is what I'm saying with all these examples. Eating healthy, mindset, just starting and just doing that. And so let's shift gears into kind of when, we kind of touched base a little bit on this. When do you figure out how to bring this into your day? And so for me, it's first things first in the morning, but maybe that's not a possibility for you. And so the idea is, well, when can you start working on your dream today, in a normal week, in a normal day? When can you actually incorporate this habit? And so James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, if you haven't read it, amazing book. I'm going to do a book review on it here probably in the next couple months. Talks about habit stacking. So the idea is you insert this new habit, working on your dream, actualizing your dream, into your day when you already are doing something all the time. So example, you wake up in the morning, the first thing you do is you go into the restroom, you pee, you wash your hands, you throw some water on your face. I hope you wash your hands. Throw some water on your face, and then you go to make your coffee, or you go to make your tea, or you go to refill your water glass for the day. Then while you're doing that, while your tea's brewing, your coffee's brewing, while you've made your water and you're waiting there, 2 minutes, just pull out your phone, open up a notes thing, and write down, if you're writing, working on a short story or something, just start writing. Write some ideas. Spend 1 minute, spend 2 minutes writing down some ideas of what you're going to do to progress that. And then you've already started. Then you can go about the rest of your day. If you're kind of a night person, after you brush your teeth at night, then think about, as soon as I brush my teeth at night, I'm going to go sit down at the table, and for 5 minutes, I'm going to open my laptop. I'm going to open a Word document, and I'm just going to write down as many ideas as fast as I can in the computer and laptop on some short stories ideas, or some ideas for the YouTube channel, or the podcast that I want to start, or how I'm going to write content for my social media platform. You just start. So think about, when you already have habits that are built in your day every single day, where can you stack these things? Kind of for working out, for me, what worked really well, especially when I was in 9 to 5s, I would always go work out either right before work or during my lunch break. So boom, the clock hits, time to go get lunch. Instead of eating lunch right away, I'd go straight to the gym, work out for 45 minutes, shower real quick, run back, and then I'd start eating lunch. And because I inserted that in the middle of my day through a consistent work week, I'd usually hit that 80 to 90 to 100% of the time. Now there are things that would come up in the day. Some meetings would run over, emergencies would happen, you'd have to fight fires. You couldn't always get there. But when you stack habits on things that are already naturally built into your day all the time, consistency naturally breeds and lends itself. So you start getting momentum in your dreams and working on your dreams and actualizing them. Set reminders. Reminders are a great thing. I lived my life by my calendar for the longest time. When I got my first master's in creative writing, I had just moved to Edinburgh. I was studying full time. I was very fortunate in a great place where I didn't have to work. But man, from 4 a.m. to 4 a.m. the next day, pretty much broken down to the 15 incremental mark, I had calendar stack on top of calendar stack of exactly what I was doing, down to when I was showering, when I was brushing my teeth, when I was eating lunch while watching a podcast for 15 minutes, then taking a 30-minute like power break nap, to then getting up and doing more studying and writing. Maybe you set reminders or you create them yourselves. Maybe you put a post-it on the mirror. So when you wake up in the morning and you pee and you brush your teeth or wash your hands or whatever, and you look at the mirror and it's like, for 5 minutes or for the next 30 seconds, pull out your phone and write some ideas for your new novel idea. Write some ideas for that business you want to start. Write some ideas for that side hustle, that passive income stream you want to build to change your family's life forever, to change your life forever. So schedule a time slot into your calendar with notification reminders. And the ideas behind this, especially by using notification reminders on your phone, is we all have our phones, pretty much all the time. And so you're automating and making the calendar and your phone work for you, which allows you to free up mind space to actually think more creatively into those things. So you don't have to be like, what should I be doing right now? Reminder, boom, 15 minutes. All right, I'm switching to writing creative content for my YouTube channel. Oh, in 5 minutes, I'm switching and I'm going to be drafting my novel. Okay, then I can step away, can take a 5-minute break, clear some space, get some more water, get a little snack, move about, shake things out. And then boom, I'm immediately into the next thing. Flow. You're not losing all these time spaces in between there. So make the calendar work for you, is a big thing, I would say. And so let's talk about where, because this is important, and the power of environment. So this is another concept that James Clear really talks about in his novel, Atomic Habits, and talking about spaces hold energy and emotion within your own mind. And so every day I have my computer desk, I have my work desk, I have the desk that I write on. I mainly only write here. Whenever I go to podcast, what do? I bring up the standing desk, my chair goes aside. Now this is my podcasting space. It has a different energy, a different flow. But whenever you have this power of environment, you're reducing the amount of friction or resistance or obstacles or challenges between you and your dream. You start stacking the odds in your favor instead of against your dream. So this is kind of the thing where, are you a people pleaser? Which I totally am. Are you an extrovert, introvert? This is, workout classes. That's the power of environment. Like I love CrossFitting. Is it a cult? Is it not a cult? Well, doesn't matter. It works. And it's not really a cult, although some have been very intense. But it's this power of environment and utilizing that to leverage your dreams, to accelerate work on your dreams. Well, Zach, I can't afford to go, work out at a CrossFit gym because they're like $200 a month. I totally get it. I'm not investing that right now either. But I have a space to work out in. Now that is a privilege for me. But let's go back to the work desk example. Well, you don't have a work desk. You live in a 1-bedroom apartment in New York and you don't have space for anything like that, or you live out in the country and you don't have space for like that. Well, at your table, literally sit in another position, turn your table around, go sit in a different chair and be like, this chair, this is my idea chair. This is where I'm going to sit every day in the morning with my coffee for 5 minutes and I'm going to think about ideas for my novel. I'm going to think about ideas for my business. And then whenever you go from ideation to actually drafting or to doing outreach or to writing that sales pitch, to DMing potential clients, that's a different space. So you're stacking the odds in your favor. And another way to do this is get around some peers, either online or in person. Like, there are so many opportunities out there where people are like, I'm lonely, I'm isolated, I'm pursuing this thing, no one else is doing it, no one's interested in what I want to do or what I want to become around me. Y'all, if you have access to the internet, you have access to pretty much the entire world. You can find people. I've gone on Facebook groups. I don't even use Facebook, but I've gone on Facebook to find Facebook groups in my local small town area of Gonzales, Texas, shout out, to find writing groups. And I've gone to these groups and I didn't use Facebook anymore. I've gone on Instagram and utilized that to find people doing what I really want to be doing near me and reached out to them. If you want to pursue your dreams and really invest that energy and really try and make this come about, you got to get around some people either online or, if you really can, in person. It makes a huge difference being around other people who are driven and motivated to do similar things. Maybe they don't even want to do the same things you want to do, but they're also interested in realizing their dreams. Like, get around those people. It's so pivotal. It is pretty much priceless. It's amazing what you can do when you get around other people, because I'll be honest, every day is not a joy in the park. You can choose to bring the joy. You can choose to see the happiness and the fulfillment and to bring that into your day and to pursue your dream with passion. But y'all, sometimes that runs out. It's not this straight upward trajectory. Like, I have a great reason. I understand my reason why I want to do. I am very passionate about writing and my story, and especially this novel I'm working on. Like, it lights me up. Am I lit up all the time? No. And that's okay. There are challenging obstacles that come at me and that knock me off of my horse. And I have to pick myself back up and get back on that. But it is 10 times easier if there are other people around you, especially in person, who can reach down and give you a hand and help you up. You see what I'm saying? Like, you don't always have to bring the energy if you're around other people with similar energy trying to attain the same thing. So get around them. If you're introverted or get easily distracted in public spaces around others, maybe it's setting a pop-up table in the bedroom, to do your writing. Maybe it's just taking a class online in what you're interested in. Maybe it is just watching YouTube videos of people you're really interested in doing the things you want to be doing. Maybe it's just joining a community that you don't even really interact with, of other people that are doing what you want to do, and you just listen, and then you throw in your 2 cents once in a while and give some value back because that feels good. Like, we all like helping out. And maybe it's private messaging other people, so it's figuring these things out. Like, stack the odds in your favor and in the favor of your dreams, because you'll never regret that. So why? Like, kind of ending with why. And you don't have to know that yet. It can be something as great as just being curious, because there is nothing wrong with just being curious. I've been curious about a lot of different things in my life. I have been passionate about a handful of things, and most of those I don't even do anymore. It could be you're driven. It could be maybe you're bored. Maybe you've grown complacent. Maybe you're unsatisfied because you haven't been challenged in a long time and you just feel like your energy is being wasted. Or maybe, it's you're not being appreciated at work. Maybe you're being underpaid. Maybe your boss is disrespectful and doesn't treat you right, or any of your coworkers right. So whatever the reasons, um, know that by showing up for your dream now, you're going to co-evolve and figure out your why as you go. This is something you can figure out a little bit later. The main thing is starting now and building this habit, and just keep going, y'all. It's like the gym. You just keep showing up and you just keep doing the reps, and you are going to get better as time progresses, because as you do that, you're naturally, your body and subconsciously or consciously, your mind's going to work out, how can I be better at this? How can I be more efficient? How can I do this in a safer manner? How can I? So as you go, you can figure out the why. It's not something you need to worry about now. So just keep going. Don't worry about the results. Like right now is the time to start doing the work. So whatever your dream is, just start doing the work right now. So next week, let's tune in for another episode of The Practical Dreamer, because we're going to explore the 7 beginner beliefs to live by until you die. It's a bit dramatic, but that's me. Y'all are welcome. And I just want to say thank y'all for being you, dedicating some time to this video, this podcast. I hope y'all got something out of this. If you did, write it down in the comment section. I would love to hear about it. If you have some thoughts or suggestions, I'm always open to receiving feedback and would love to hear, what works for y'all, what doesn't work for y'all. This is a conversation. Let's co-evolve together. And, maybe right now, take some tiny action. Once you stop listening to this, once you finish watching this video, even mid-video, pause it, take 2 minutes for yourself and for your dream, because you will never regret that. Go into your notes, write down a question like, what was my dream as a kid? What's something I can do right now that will get me one step closer towards actualizing my dream? Or maybe it's, what do I love about my current job and how can I do more of that? Or maybe it's like, what in my life is really holding me back, is bringing a lot of negative space and negative energy into my life, and why the hell is it there? Why do I let this thing hang about? You know, and yeah, if you got something out of this, please leave a comment below, like this video, share it with someone who you think needs to hear this today. And as always, thank y'all for pursuing your dreams so we can work together to make the world a better place today.